And we are now streaming to the internet, and they should be receiving the signal any second now. And it's going green on YouTube. This is great. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, guys, you know the drill. If you can see me, make some noise or type something. And if you can hear my guest, Jared Beck, could you let us know? Can you hear Jared? Jared, say hello to the folks.
Hey, everyone. How's everyone doing out there?
There it is. G. Cooligans in the house. Roseanne Mortorana, Low Key. We hear you, Tim. Low Key says they can hear us. I love this. Thank you, Low Key. Thank you, Low Key. I appreciate you. All right, guys. Now, welcome to the Tim Black at Night Show, another edition of No Sellouts. I'm very fortunate to have been able to be around people and network with people so I can bring you great guests. And tonight is no exception. I have a guest for you that's a very timely topic that we are all very much invested in. It is regards to the DNC fraud lawsuit. I have for us attorney and advocate and all-around revolutionary Jared Beck. Give it up for Jared Beck, ladies and gentlemen. Jared, my brother, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Tim? It's great to be here.
Man, it's fantastic having you, man. What state are you in?
We're in Florida. We're in the great city of Miami.
Oh man, so wow. You're in Florida. Yeah, the state of Tim Canova, my friend Tim Canova, and my arch nemesis Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Wow, that's great.
It all goes down in Florida, right?
That's it, man. Florida is something else. Those gun laws, God. So, Jared, let's bring everybody up to speed a little bit. Let them know a little bit about you, Jared. How long have you been practicing law? In what states do you practice?
Okay, so I've been practicing law since I graduated from law school in 2004. I'm licensed to practice in both Florida and California. My wife, Elizabeth, and I have been running our own firm here in Miami since 2007. So several years after law school, both Elizabeth and I, we had been representing big corporations at large law firms, and we decided that we didn't want to do that anymore. We wanted to represent actual people and to get them relief in court. So we started our own firm in 2007, and that's what we've been doing ever since.
Wow, man, that's amazing. You mean you're a lawyer who decided they take less money defending the people over defending corporations, Jared?
Believe it or not, and I couldn't. After spending several years defending big corporations, I just couldn't do it anymore. I just, the idea of beating up on the little guy. Just is, it's not something I have in me, and I just couldn't make a career out of it. We have a lot of lawyers in this country, but I firmly believe that we don't have enough lawyers representing actual people with, everyday legal problems. So it's been a great privilege to do that, and I wouldn't do anything else if my life depended on it.
Well, look, Jared, first of all, we want to thank you for being ethical and for letting your conscience be a part of what's guiding you. So this is good for us to know, guys. Audience, be aware that there are some good lawyers out there who have souls and who care about, who have high ideals. And just put that in your mix, when you're thinking about lawyers, because I know they tend to get a bad rap. But we got some. I'm sure Jared and Elizabeth. Oh, hold up. Let's give a clap for Elizabeth as well. Elizabeth Beck, guys. My bad. So Jared, so you're a lawyer. You're in Florida. You're practicing. What alerted you to the DNC and what's going on now with the lawsuit? What alerted you to that?
Yeah, so flashback to early 2016, and Elizabeth and I were both very active Bernie Sanders supporters, and we put a lot of our time and our resources into Bernie Sanders. We were very fired up about his message. We actually started our own a little organization called Jam Pack, which is just me and Elizabeth, and we took some of our savings into making videos about Bernie Sanders to help out with his campaign, little viral videos. This was back in early 2016. Many of your viewers will recall that at the time there were a lot of false and malicious narratives going around about how Bernie Sanders, for example, wasn't connecting with people in the Hispanic community, Spanish speakers. And we just knew that that wasn't true. Being down here in Miami, we knew a lot of people from Spanish-speaking Latinos who were very, very fired up about Bernie Sanders. And so we felt that we, as part of being Bernie Sanders supporters, what we could do is maybe counteract that narrative in the media. And so we produced videos, just getting out the message, and just having phone banks in our office, that type of thing. And I want to say it was February, March of 2016 when a gentleman by the name of Nico House came into our office, and that was really the catalyst for the lawsuit that was eventually filed, because Nico brought with him evidence from his time as a grassroots supporter for Bernie Sanders in North Carolina. Evidence that we found to be very disturbing and suggested that something was very rotten inside of the Democratic Party.
Absolutely, man. This is crazy. It's kind of full circle. I had Nico on my show in February, probably before, I don't know if it was before he contacted you, but it was right around that same time. He came on the show and we had like a 2-hour-long conversation about the evidence that I guess he ended up giving to you or shared with you at that point. So, and it's kind of, so how does it feel being Bernie Bros? I mean, you and your wife both support Bernie. Like, wow, that's you don't look like Bernie Bros. Elizabeth doesn't sound like a Bernie Bro, but Right.
Well, I mean, I grew up in a Democratic family. My father worked in the labor movement, and so I learned the values of the labor movement growing up. Elizabeth, she came to this country from Korea at the age of 3. She grew up on welfare. She grew up in the inner city in LA, and she was a public school teacher before she became a lawyer. We've, before 2016, we were both, I would say, not extremely politically active, but we would give money to Democratic candidates and help out with campaigns in Florida. I would say that my political consciousness wasn't at the highest level it's ever been. But then Bernie Sanders really changed all that because he started speaking in very clear and unequivocal terms about very dire issues that are facing this country and that nobody else, in our view, was addressing at the time. And so it really caught our attention, and it dovetailed with a lot of the concerns that we've seen, representing the less fortunate as clients in our cases. And so we felt that, that it was imperative for us to do what we could to get Bernie elected, and of course that first meant trying to get Bernie the Democratic nomination.
Gotcha. Yeah, very inspiring stuff, Jared. Very inspiring, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate to it because a lot of us had a sort of an awakening with Bernie's, his primary run, and just getting to know him and then digging through the information and finding out, hey, he's just not saying this in 2016. He's been saying this since 1996 and 1986 and 1976. Like, it's the same guy. He's saying the same. So for the same reasons, man, I did the same stuff. I got involved. So please bring me up to speed. So you got the information, and what about the evidence that Nico presented you that said, you know what, I can risk or I can put my time into this? What was it?
You mean in terms of pursuing the lawsuit?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So What Nico brought to our attention was a lot of disturbing information which suggested that the Bernie Sanders campaign was being infiltrated by people that were loyal to Hillary Clinton. At the same time, he was also investigating information and bringing it to our attention, which showed that there were funding issues in the Democratic Party, which suggested that money was being funneled that should have gone to state elections, but it was going into the Hillary campaign, stuff like that. But here's the thing, as a lawyer, before you file a lawsuit, especially a lawsuit in federal court that's alleging fraud and misrepresentation, those types of things, you want to make sure that you have rock solid evidence. And so Nico, is an incredibly courageous person. He's an incredibly perceptive person, and he's an incredibly dedicated person. But he was bringing us, evidence that he had collected from his time on the ground as a grassroots Bernie Sanders organizer. But we by no means had a clear picture of actually what was going on at the Democratic Party. We knew something was rotten. And we knew it merited further investigation. But the real question for us is, how do we go about doing that investigation and penetrating an organization that is extremely powerful, maybe, at the time, one of the most powerful organizations in the world? Well, so this is, again, back in February, March 2016. And then, of course, we had all the primaries, and a lot of strange things happened in the primaries. And then we got to the convention in Philly. But in June of 2016, that's when really the bombshell dropped, and it was quite unexpected, and it's what allowed us to actually file this lawsuit. And that was the release of documents by Guccifer 2.0 from the DNC's own servers, and the release of those documents into the public domain. And what those documents began to confirm is what Nico's evidence had pointed to, was that there was a concerted effort from within the Democratic National Committee itself to fix the primaries for Hillary Clinton. And so this was documentary evidence that was released by Guccifer 2.0 in June. And then, of course, most people know that shortly after that, WikiLeaks dropped an even greater collection of documents into the public domain that even further confirmed what the prior release of documents had showed. And so, based on the Guccifer documents, we were able to put together a complaint and file it in federal court, and that's the DNC fraud lawsuit that we're talking about today.
Amazing, amazing. So wow. So you have this information you get from Guccifer, and from I'm guessing the Podesta emails from WikiLeaks, and now what do you do? So you file a lawsuit. Who is included in the lawsuit? Some people have asked, is it just Bernie supporters? But I read that there were like 3 pillars to the lawsuit. That's exactly right. We have 3 what are called proposed classes of individuals that we're seeking to represent through this lawsuit. One is, of course, people that gave to the Bernie Sanders campaign. The second class, or proposed class, is people that gave to the DNC. And third is registered members of the Democratic Party, including people that may not have given any money at all. So how does that work? If they didn't give money, how are they damaged? And what type, is this is there some type of damages they're seeking, or is it just the fact that they've been defrauded? So basically, for that specific class, the Democratic Party members, we've alleged a claim which is called breach of fiduciary duty. And the claim is basically that the leadership of the Democratic Party has a fiduciary duty to its members. In other words, it must run the organization in a way that benefits, first and foremost, the members of the Democratic Party. Now, the damages we're seeking are based on the fact that when somebody registers as a Democrat, they're putting their trust and their faith into
the Democratic Party being a democratic organization that runs its elections in an impartial and even-handed manner, which is exactly what its own charter says. And so the essence of this lawsuit is that the DNC and its chair did not do that in the 2006 primaries. In fact, they rigged the primaries for Bernie Sanders. They did everything in their power to predetermine the results so that Hillary Clinton would win the nomination. And we believe that based on the case law, we have a viable claim for all Democrats who are members of the party that have had their interests as Democrats harmed because they've invested their time and their resources and really their whole identity into being Democrats, and they've had their taken away from them by the actions of the DNC. So that's the basis of the breach of fiduciary claim.
I just want people to realize how huge this is. And when I say huge, I'm referring to the people who I know people because of my channel and people I've touched who traveled across the country, who left their jobs to support the Bernie Sanders campaign. There are people who are still unemployed, who gave up employment because they saw Bernie Sanders as an opportunity to change the course of history. They believed in the candidacy. So I don't think the general public, Jared, they really get the trauma that people have suffered from this. Now, we know that nothing's given. Like, there's no way to know for sure if Bernie would have won. But those people who gave up everything, people lost families, people were traveling and family members passed away. I mean, there's some serious stories out there, guys, that you don't hear about on MSNBC and CNN that these people went through. And I don't think that is stressed enough when people sort of flippantly say, you can't, there's no way to know if Bernie would have won. That's not the point. He should have been given a fair opportunity to win just based on that. So, Jared, so you presented in court. I'm trying to be orderly. You presented in court, and who is the judge? Could you tell us a little bit about that proceeding with the judge?
Yes. So our judge is Judge Williams Locke, who is a very experienced judge. He's a senior judge in the Fort Lauderdale division of the Southern District of Florida. The hearing we had last Tuesday, was on the second motion to dismiss that was filed by the defendants in an effort to kick this case out of court even before it gets off the ground, really. And so the judge heard 3.5 hours of argument on Tuesday afternoon. He had a very, very detailed list of questions for both sides that he went through. He gave both sides an opportunity to argue their positions. And at the end of the case, he indicated that he'll be taking all the arguments into account and issuing a written order. So he hasn't issued a formal order, and he'll be doing that in writing. But we did have a very extensive hearing last week in the case.
And I was reading the transcripts that were released online. Someone sent them to me. And, I'm kind of confused, though, Jared, because I remember back when you filed the lawsuit, the first, rebuttals I was hearing from the DNC was sort of like this, and I'm paraphrasing, man. It was like, yeah, well, if we cheated you, you should have known that we would be impartial. I mean, that we would be partial, that we would have biases. So you should have already known that. And now it seems like they're kind of denying that, and they're saying, "Oh well, no." It's a little different message now. What is their defense now?
Well, they have a number of arguments that they've put forth, and we went through those on Tuesday. Two of them stick out in my mind because they're very, I would use the word bold to describe them. I don't think they're supported by the case law, and I think they're very, very disturbing, just the fact that the DNC is relying on these positions. But the first argument they're making is that they don't believe there's a legally enforceable obligation to run the primaries in a fair and impartial manner. And in fact, the lawyer for the DNC said in open court last week, as an officer of the court, that in his view, the DNC could go into smoke-filled rooms, smoke cigars, pick the candidates between them. These are, the leaders of the DNC smoking cigars, and we'd have no legal recourse whatsoever if they did that. So that's their first position that came out in court last week. That is, they're trying to use to say that there's just no legal claim here that the court can rule on. The second position that's come out now is that they don't believe that the words impartial and even-handed have a sufficient enough meaning so that the court could actually rule in this case. In other words, they don't think that those words actually mean anything, and it would, they're too ambiguous for the court to decide whether or not the DNC was being impartial and even-handed. And I think that's just a completely shocking and really crazy argument. But it's in the transcript. You don't have to take my word from it. Right. It's in the transcript.
Freaking
you can see.
Crazy. It's crazy, Jared. That well, look. If they say it's our party, we do what we want to do. We go where we want to go, and we play the music we want to play at our own parties. That's cool. But what about the federally matching funds that they receive? Isn't that like based on the fact that the government's saying that they're going to run their party in a certain way? Like, how do they get money for a private organization?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we live in what, for all intents and purposes, is a two-party democracy. It's been like this for a long, long time. We've had two parties that, you have other. I'm not trying to denigrate anyone else that believes in third parties or has put resources into third parties. I've voted for third-party candidates, but for all intents and purposes, you have to be either a Democrat or a Republican to win an office like President of the United States. And so what that means is that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, for that matter, they are the custodians of the democratic institutions of this country because they're responsible for running the primary elections, as you pointed out. And so if we live in a democracy, and if you read the Constitution, it's pretty clear that this is supposed to be a democracy, and I don't think anyone disputes that, then how could it be that the Democratic Party could run its primaries in anything but an even-handed, impartial manner? I mean, that's what an even-handed and impartial election is. None of the candidates are favored, and the voters decide. And so I just think it's a completely bogus argument. Not only does it fly in the face of the Constitution, but it flies in the face of the Democratic Party's own charter, which says that it has to be fair and even-handed. And it also flies in the face of what the Democratic Party's leaders, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz, were saying over and over again in the public eye, in the media, as the elections were going on. They were saying, oh, we're neutral. We're not taking any sides. So, on all those levels, we see a clear contradiction between what, in our view, the Democratic Party is obligated to do as one of the two major parties in this country by the terms of its own charter, on the one hand, and what the DNC is coming into court and saying, which is that we have no obligation to run these primaries in a fair and impartial manner. In fact, we could just sit in a room, smoke cigars, and decide among us, important Democratic folks or what have you, that this is going to be the candidate for the presidential election.
Absolutely. I mean, it just seems. It seems almost like I can't believe that they actually not only said it, but I mean they said it in a court case. They said it with someone typing it. They said it like that's not something like I would expect someone to have a recording like the Donald Sterling where he said some things to his girlfriend and she recorded it without him knowing it. They said this in court that look, we don't have to be impartial. We don't even know what impartial means, and you can't tell us what impartial means because we don't understand the dictionary. And though we have cases all the time where someone says, hey, you treated me unfairly at work. You discriminated on me. And courts find a way to determine if you were discriminating. Like, it's not impossible to look at the data, right? And to say smoke-filled rooms. And see, Jared, and I'm sure you've heard this when you make these appearances and people comment. It's like they take people's money. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They're taking people's money, and then they say, well, you don't really have a say. We overrule your say if we choose to, and you can't complain about it. Am I like jumping to conclusions, or is it that the same way you see it?
Absolutely. I think we're exactly on the same page here. And something you said was very interesting because, you know, the fact that this is going on in court is a big deal. Too often, I think we've seen, not only during the campaign, but, you know, in the aftermath of the campaign and during the new administration, we see the mainstream media, when they don't like a story, what do they say? They call it fake news, right? We hear that over and over again. This is fake news. You shouldn't pay attention to it. Well, you know what? You can't call this fake news because it's happening in a court of law, okay? And so, you know, when you make a statement in court as an officer of the court, you can't back out of that statement. You're held to that. So, you know, Tom Perez, for example, I don't know how many people know this, but very recently, you know, he was interviewed and he actually admitted in an interview that the primaries were rigged. And then, of course, he walked that statement back the next day and said, well, you know, I really didn't mean that, or I made a mistake, or blah, blah, whatever he said. But you can't do that in court. In court, you are bound by a duty to the court as an officer of the court when you are advising the court of the facts and of the law as you understand them. And so by putting these arguments forth, the DNC is articulating its official legal position on these issues. So we're in the process of really nailing down their position, and I think that's very, very important.
Hell yeah, it's it's the most important story or case that I've seen in quite some time, man, because it cuts at the real fabric of, are we going to have a democracy or not? And just since you brought up the fake news thing, I'm just wondering, has CNN or MSNBC contacted you? Why haven't I seen you on those programs? Rachel Maddow, Chris Hayes, why haven't they had you on?
Well, you know, that's a question for them. You know, I think, you know, we can argue or we can talk about, you know, why that may be. I mean, I just think it's another example of the media blackout that goes on whenever, you know, the mainstream media, which is so invested in the Democratic Party as an organization run by elites for elites. I just think it's an example of the mainstream media blacking out what they don't want to hear. And we saw that again and again throughout the primaries. We see it now in their coverage of the Trump administration. I think they're constantly, you know, chasing down red herrings and ignoring important issues. So, you know, I think it's just one more example where the mainstream media is failing us and where we have to turn to alternative media in order to get the truth.
And I agree with you, Jared, 100%. It's just so, it's so disrespectful that they would not. I mean, this is a major case. People watching, do you realize how big this case is, how important this case is? This is about our elections. And as much as they, you know, they talk about Russia, they say, well, Russia did this, Russia hacked, they threatened our democracy, they hacked our elections, they swayed the vote, and Hillary's back out saying it. This is about elections too, and no one's talking about it. I mean, I saw you on Jordan Sheridan. I think you were with Ed Higgins, a couple other people I know in indie media, but come on, that's not, you know, I just think this is a clear sign, one of the very clear signs, this and Standing Rock, on how our media just does not cover information that's very vital to the people. This is blatant. This is, and they keep talking about the elections, and this is about the election. This should be everywhere, folks. Folks, Jared and Elizabeth should be on. They shouldn't even have time for me. They should be able to, you know, they should be like, you know, I'd be able to text Jared, like, Jared, could you respond to this question? Because he should be so busy right now. going everywhere talking about this case. And that also, and I know I'm going on a little bit of rant, Jared, but I just want to drive home for people what this case, when you look at the media, you got to look at what they're talking about, but also what they're not talking about. In this, they are not talking about. So, Jared, I know you can't really speculate about the judge and what they felt, but is it customary for them to spend a whole day on this type of preliminary, decide if they're going to kick the case or not?
I would say it's the type of thing that you only decide that you only see when there's a very big case pending. Courts. Courts are they're very, very busy places, especially these days. They have huge dockets. Given the state of our judicial system now, there's so many criminal cases going through that and criminal cases, we have a right to a speedy trial. So in some ways, they take precedence over civil cases, this case is a civil case, and so judges are very, very, very busy. For a judge to devote an entire afternoon to hearing arguments on a motion to dismiss, I think it's very, very telling, and it shows the extent to which this judge is taking this case very, very seriously. And I think that should be an encouraging sign for everybody that's watching this, because I can tell you right now that I firmly believe that this is the only place in our government right now where we're having a serious discussion about issues going to the corruption in our political system at a very on a very large level. We're not having that discussion anywhere else in government, and so it's a very, very important case for that reason. And just by virtue of the fact we're having that discussion, I think is a step forward.
When you say we're not having that discussion in other forms of government, what do you mean specifically? You mean in the executive office?
Yeah, yeah. I mean in Congress, and I mean in the executive. Donald Trump, as part of his campaign platform, he promised to. He used the phrase "drain the swamp." He told folks he was going to lock her up and prosecute Clinton. We've seen nothing. Since he's now, I know he's only 100 days into his term, but so far, in terms of that particular aspect of his agenda, I've seen no indication that we're going to address corruption in our government, and I find that very, very disheartening, because I know a lot of his supporters were very energized about the idea of, for example, prosecuting the Clinton Foundation. They were, and I think there's a lot of disappointment. So we're not having a discussion there. In Congress, I mean, Congress can't even, do the basics of governing right now. I mean, they can't even pass legislation. So, I'm sure they're not, none of them are discussing. I mean, they're the whole problem. That's the corruption right there, is the people in Congress. So, yeah, I don't think we're having this discussion anywhere in our government, except in this particular courtroom, in this particular case. Now, there may be other cases that are going on elsewhere. I don't know. But, that's, if we're going to clean up our government, we need to have that discussion somewhere, and we need to be taking some action.
So, and I agree again. So if the judge decides that this case has merit and it moves forward, will that mean that Donald Brazile, and will you be calling people, my friends, to the stand that will give me an opportunity to do a video every hour on the hour?
Well, I can tell you that, if we get to the next stage of the case, which was called discovery, we most certainly are going to be taking depositions of all of the key witnesses, all of the key players in this saga. So that most definitely includes Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It includes Donna Brazile. It includes Louis Miranda. It includes everybody. I mean, those of your viewers who have gone through the WikiLeaks themselves and know those documents, you know that it's a very, very long list of people that were involved, and we plan to put all of them under oath, take their depositions, and ask them the questions that need to be asked in this case. And we're also going to be doing, extensive if we get to discovery, we're going to be doing extensive discovery into all of the other documents that are out there. I mean, we're in a position right now where a lot of the documents have already come out into the public domain, by virtue of WikiLeaks, by virtue of Guccifer, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure there's a lot more stuff out there, and the discovery process is what lets you get that material during litigation.
Well, if you need help doing paralegal work, if you need a paralegal, man, I can volunteer. I was a paralegal when I got
is that right?
years ago. Yeah, years
ago.
Oh,
fantastic.
Then actually did litigation discovery. That's what I did.
Okay, so
yeah.
you know how it goes.
I do. I do.
You know how it goes.
Man, that's exciting stuff, man. A lot of work.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this question, Jared. Be completely 100% honest, man.
Yeah.
Were you ever scared as hell about this case, like for your safety? Because we're talking about very powerful people. This is, as you describe it, and I'm just thinking, like, were you ever worried?
The truth is yes, and I know that people following this case, from the very beginning, they've seen the video of our process server, a gentleman by the name of Sean Lucas, who served the lawsuit on the DNC when it was first filed. And he died under very mysterious circumstances, very sudden circumstances. You can see the video of him serving the lawsuit on our YouTube channel to this day, and there's many views. But he was found on his bathroom floor with a mix of 3 different drugs in his body. The death has been ruled an accident by the DC coroner, but to my knowledge, no real investigation has been done into what exactly happened. And he was a young man. By the accounts I've heard, he wasn't a drug user, and he was very healthy. So whenever something like that happens, it creates concern, and then you put that together with the death of Seth Rich, who many people believe that he was in fact the leaker that leaked the documents to Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks documents. Of course, he was found in D.C. He was killed in a supposedly a botched robbery, except they didn't take his wallet and they didn't take his watch, and he was walking home at like 3 a.m, and we have no information as to what happened there. I'm not jumping to conclusions about what happened to those young men, but I think whenever you have a suspicious deaths or unexpected deaths, and they in a situation like that, it raises concerns, and you can't let that stop you. I think the issues that we're talking about are, too important to really let something like that slow you down. And I know that lots and lots of people, many people across the country, are making enormous sacrifices and putting their lives at risk every day. I mean, just look at the people at Standing Rock, okay? So at the end of the day, I think it's an easy decision, but I think we're living, to press forward with this, but, I think we're living in very, very unusual times. I think there is a lot of very heated discourse out there, a lot of uncertainty as to where our political system is headed. And, I think, I'd be a fool to say that, these are normal times, and, it's business as usual. But I guess that's a long answer to your question, Tim.
No, but I get it though. And we totally, like, well, I can say, I think I speak for most of my viewers, if not all my viewers, man. We really respect what you're doing, and we really appreciate it. I have a question from a
Yeah.
Louis Ventura. She wants to know, she signed up as a class representative last July after I had heard about the suit. Do Jared and Elizabeth have a total number of class reps who have signed on? And do the number of class reps carry any weight in the judge's decision?
Those are good questions. So we have, at last count, I mean, I think it's well over 1,000 people have actually formally signed on to be class representatives. But this, in terms of how this case is being litigated, we're litigating it as a class action, which means that you only need you really only need one class representative in a class action on the complaint to file a class action. We actually have, I think it's a little over 100 at this point. At some point, if we get past the motion to dismiss, the court we will file a motion to certify the class as a class action. And that means that we're going to be asking the court to make a determination that the case is suitable to be litigated as a class action. We haven't reached that point yet. And if that happens, and if the case is certified as a class action, then what happens is class notice goes out, and then everybody in the class would get some sort of notice. But that's a long way off. Right now, we're still in the very, very early stages of the lawsuit.
Gotcha. So I guess some questions like, is it possible reconciliation or possible solutions to it afterwards if the judge approves the case? I was thinking, would they have to change their charter? Like some things that I'm looking as a recourse for what the DNC did, in my opinion, which was defraud the American people, and actually not just the American people of the world, because we know in a lot of ways, there goes the United States, there goes the planet in a lot of ways. So, I would like for them to have to change their charter to just be honest. Like, we do what we want to do. This is my house and this is the way I roll, or something.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, this is being litigated as a class action in the civil system. And so in the civil system, the best tool you have to get a company that's doing wrong to do right is to get a judgment against them, and to get a substantial judgment against them. And then that, provides the incentive for them to change their conduct. And it also sets precedent so that other in this case, other political parties will have an incentive and a precedent to look to so that they don't engage in this conduct again. So really our goal here is to go to trial and get a verdict in our favor, and then to get a substantial money judgment against the DNC so that they never engage in this again.
Is there any circumstance where you would settle the case if it became an option?
Well, to do a settlement, you need to have somebody make you a settlement offer, and that they haven't. The lawyers for the other side have never even come close to talking about being interested in settling this case. I mean, they've done just the opposite, which is to fight us on every turn in this case. I mean, this is their second motion to dismiss. The first motion to dismiss was filed soon after we filed the case, and they tried to tell us that we didn't serve, or that Sean Lucas didn't serve the complaint correctly. And, we actually had an entire evidentiary hearing on that issue, and that was last year. So, by the looks of things, they're going to fight us at every turn.
Just the publicity alone, I would think. I just started thinking about Fox News and the recent allegations, and some of them stem back for like 10 years about Bill O'Reilly and how they paid these women, and they just want to make it go away type of thing. I'm thinking now, so you're up against some pretty big. Are these big law firms that are working for the DNC, or yeah? So how are you funding this? Like, how are you eating, man?
Well, this is actually How we do most of our cases, we do like I would say 90% of our cases are contingency cases, meaning that we fund it out of our firm savings. So we fund all the costs, and we're not going to get paid attorney's fees unless we win. But we're very comfortable doing that. We've been doing cases like this since we opened our firm in 2007. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But when you have a model like this, you're actually allowed to take on pretty big battles, because some of the most important cases in our society are brought by people that don't have the means to pay you as a lawyer. They can't pay you up front, so you have to rely on a contingency model. I'm comfortable doing it. I mean, we're not fancy people. We don't, spend a lot of money on ourselves, and we like to save what money we have to do things that we think are important. So this fits right in with that, and we're just very, very happy to be doing this on behalf of so many people.
Jared, man, you just restored humanity for a lot of people, man. I know you're a humble guy, man. I can tell, but I'm just letting you know that there, because I do such harsh, horrible stories daily of things that happen, and then we have somebody come in and they're talking about humanity, and they're talking about what's right, the right thing to do, and they take joy from actually trying to get justice, and it's like, oh yeah, there are people like that. They still exist.
Yeah, but you know what, Tim, though, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think there's so many people out there that are doing so much right now. I actually feel that, as pessimistic as I feel sometimes about our politics, I have great optimism in the people of this country, because there are so many people right now that are, just for example, just with this lawsuit, there's this mainstream media blackout, but then there's so many people that are, they've become the media themselves because they want to get the word out. And so, they're doing this in their spare time. They're not getting paid a dime for it. And yet, we've got people, independent citizen journalists that are covering, the court hearings, so that when I come out of the hearing, there's folks with their iPhones that are taking video and live streaming and making sure that the word's getting out. And, we're encountering people like this at every stage. And I really think of it as a one big group effort by people that care. And we certainly couldn't do what we're doing unless we had the support and the encouragement of so many people. So I like to think of this as one big group effort.
And I appreciate it. I'm glad to be a part of that group. And you're absolutely right. And but I gotta ask you this, because Zach Haller, he recently wrote an article, the seven deadly sins of the DNC. No, it wasn't that, but it was close to it. Like the 7 takeaways about the DNC fraud case. Great. So give a shout out to Zach. And then H.A. Goodman did a video today about TYT, where they were having a panel, and they didn't have much faith in this lawsuit, and they were detracting from the lawsuit, saying that they felt that there was no recourse because, I don't know. Did you get an opportunity to see this video?
Yeah, I did. I saw the panel discussion they had. I mean, Jordan Chariton did a very nice piece when the lawsuit came out, and I thought he covered it well. But some of his colleagues at the TYT had a sort of a roundtable discussion that I thought was, it was ill-informed, and I didn't think it really got into the issues, in an informed and intelligent manner. It seems like they were, replicating the DNC's legal arguments, which, I have to reiterate this, Tim. They're really not based in case law. This concept that the DNC, because it's a political party, is somehow above the legal system and can't be held legally accountable. There's no support for that. And, our briefs are online. If folks want to dig into the briefs and look at what we put in the briefs, in addition to what we argued at the hearing, you'll see that the case law is very, very much on our side for these issues, in my view. And, So I just don't think that the arguments on the other side have a lot of merit.
What, Jared? You don't think bringing up the Republicans of 1983 wasn't a good point to make about the 2016 election? I mean, that's what one of the guys said. He's like, well, the Republicans cheated the Republicans, so hey, it's okay. You thought that was you didn't see validity in that argument?
No, I don't see validity. I think that this concept that, well, politics means that you can lie and cheat people and it's okay. It makes me sad that there are people that appear to actually believe that. I don't see how you can believe in American democracy on the one hand, and on the other hand, believe that it's okay to have a totally corrupt political process. The two just don't go hand in hand.
It doesn't, Jared. And see, I would be upset if it was corporate media. They have a job. They're hired. They had advertisers that may have a vested interest in the outcome of a case like this, or whatever, right? But I don't know, Jared. I mean, you're a better man than me. I'd be pissed because independent media, they should not be with the establishment. Just, it just sticks to my craw. You get what I'm saying? Because you know what I mean. Like, that's the whole purpose of us. Like, if I'm gonna parrot and I don't know what Rachel Maddow would say. She might surprise me. If I parrot what Rachel Maddow would say, then what good am I? You know what I'm saying? If I don't look at it and say from a progressive standpoint, if that's what I say I am. So I was very disappointed in their analysis and sort of like the I don't know, just the condescending tone, like, and that whole attitude that, well, politics is dirty. So we got to get dirty. What do you think about, and I know this is kind of going away from maybe your legal expertise, but as a guy, as a human being, as an American citizen, as a voter, what do you think about that whole idea that politics is dirty, so we get to play dirty if we're going to win?
I think I think it's completely wrong. We're talking about, look, I think people have to be very, very, have a clear understanding of what the issues are in this case. We're not bringing this case against the Hillary Clinton campaign for playing quote unquote dirty tricks.
It's bigger than Hillary. It's bigger than Hillary, right, Jerry?
I mean, exactly. I mean, we know that when there's a political campaign, one campaign is going to try to get out in front of the other campaign, and they're going to, say things that aren't necessarily true, or they're going to, try to play quote unquote dirty tricks. Okay, but that's not what this case is about. We're actually talking about the organization, the DNC, that was responsible for running the election. Okay, so it's the analogy I can think of is say the NFL, for example. I mean, if the NFL decided that the Patriots should win the Super Bowl this year, well, that just takes the entire legitimacy out of the game of football. Okay, from the beginning, right? Because everybody. You know that the Patriots are going to win, and that's not how the games are supposed to be run. Okay, I mean there's going to be conflict in politics. We know that. There's going to be a certain amount of dirtiness. We know that. But the DNC is not supposed to be engaging in that, and it's not supposed to be acting as an arm of one candidate or the other. And that's what makes this case different from just sort of saying, well, politics has its own logic. It doesn't have its own logic when you're actually talking about the organization that's running the primaries and the organization that is responsible for ensuring those primaries are run in a democratic fashion. That's the problem.
Man, that's excellent explanation. That's why you're a lawyer, Jared. That's why, man. You see, because I used the word dirty. I should have said rigged, because you're right. It's not about dirty. Like, people do things, but we're talking about the process. You're right. I wouldn't buy a ticket to any football game if I already knew who was going to lose and win. I mean,
Right.
that's the whole purpose. And for them to kind of assert that people would do it anyway, like, because even if they knew that it was a setup, they would still like give money. Who would do that?
Who would,
You know what I'm saying?
why would you throw away your money? I mean, we actually have, we have name representatives that are homeless, and they gave whatever money they could get to Bernie Sanders. I mean, now why would somebody in that position give away money to a candidate who's going to lose? It doesn't make any rational sense whatsoever.
Because they want to make a statement, Jared. They don't want to win. They don't want to change this country. They just want to say something. They just want to see Bernie make a good show of it. BS, right? BS, right? They wanted. That's why they did what they did. That's why they stood in lines to vote. That's why they shared on Facebook. That's why they tweeted. That's why they made videos. I made 100 videos, Jared. 100 videos, because that's all I could do. I didn't have money, but I had my ability to make videos. And like you, I wanted to show that there were black folks who supported Bernie, and I wanted to go against that myth that there was just a bunch of 20, 21 or 18 or whatever, 21 or whatever, like young, white guys are supporting him. I wanted the world to know that was not a reality. So, but yeah, come on, Jared, they would have us believe, and particularly, I want to hammer that TYT panel, because that was dirty. People, like you say, homeless people. I didn't even think about that. Homeless people collecting money and saying, I could get a room tonight, right? But Bernie needs this $27 more than I do, and maybe if Bernie gets in, maybe I have a room for the next year. Like maybe Bernie will have a program. So let's do this, guys. And just imagine that going all over the country, people doing acts like that. And for these guys to sit up there and say, well, yeah, it doesn't seem valid to me. It's just, this is just what we do. This is just, what can you expect? It's that whole pragmatic, pragmatism. I don't know. But,
Tim, I haven't met a single Bernie supporter that believed that, he didn't have a chance to win the nomination because the process was rigged. Everybody that I know that supported Bernie believed that the process was legitimate and that he was running a bona fide process, in a bona fide process to get the nomination. So I just think that's totally invalid.
Right. And it's not just it's to us. And I know, this is a little. Just it's not my opinion. We realize at this point that he had a chance to win it all. That's the other thing. There is some emotion with the supporters and with the general public that's like, because we can read, like Bernie right now is the most popular active politician in the United States. Right. The next closest politician is Elizabeth Warren. Jimmy Dore was on my show. We talked about it. And they both happen to be closer to the ideology of Bernie. So the two most popular politicians in America support the stances that Bernie supports. And you mean to tell me you don't think that man could have won, or that candidate couldn't have won the election? So, this is going to be raw for a long time. If the DNC thinks this is going to go away, I'll just ask you this, and guys, this is nothing to do with the case. The DNC Unity Tour, Jared. I don't know, man. They should have invited you on the Unity Tour, right? They should have tried to.
Well, yeah, the Unity Tour. Here's my take on that. I mean, I've represented, a lot of people in my practice, not just in this case, but, just more generally, who have been victims of fraud, who have been injured by corporations or other people. And, that's why people bring lawsuits, right? And I can tell you that generally you don't want to engage in unity with the other side unless you've had justice when someone's defrauded you. Wow. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, you don't hold hands with the person on the other side until you believe that your grievances have been addressed and that you've obtained justice. I mean, that's why we have a legal system. So to me, the concept of unity is a non-starter at this point.
Yeah, very premature. If you bust my windows out of my car, yeah, I'll shake your hand after you get my windows fixed.
Right.
Then
exactly.
we can, then we can forget about, oh yeah, yeah, the windows all fixed. Yeah, man, I'm really sorry I did it. Okay, well, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. Thank you. Don't do it again. But yeah, they want to shake hands with the window. The glass is still in my seat.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Anybody in the chat room have a question for Jared? I'm about to, I can't hold him all night here, man. Grandma Christine, she said, unity my ass. That's not a question, Grandma Christine. Bernie, Jonathan, anybody got a question? They're just going crazy. There's a little bit of a delay. Jared, is there anything that you would like to add that I try to do a good job asking questions, but I'm sure you got some stuff you might want to say just to kind of like wrap it up for them or give us some food for thought.
A lot of people ask, how can they help with the lawsuit? How can they support us? And my response to that is, we're litigating this. We're going through the process. It's the legal process is I like to call it slow and steady. I have great faith we're going to get to the right result, but things take time. We have due process in this country, which means that we have to go through various stages. But in the sort of immediate future, if you want to help this case, get the word out about it. I mean, we were facing a mainstream media blackout, so the best thing you can do is help in the face of that blackout by getting the word out to your friends, to your colleagues, to people on social media, to people outside of social media about what's going on in this court. Maybe share with them what you've read in the transcript, what you've read about people who've looked at the transcript. Support independent media sources such as this show, because this is really the only place, where the truth is getting out about this case and really about everything else that's going on in our crazy political scene right now. And so the best thing you can do, I think, as a participant, concerned participant in our society, concerned about our political system, is support your independent media and keep your independent media going, because that's really, really important right now. The judge in our case, he closed the hearing by saying that democracy demands the truth because the people have to make intelligent decisions. And I think that goes, that statement also speaks to the importance of our independent media getting out the truth.
I love it, man, and I love that statement. As I told H.A., who read that to me on our show yesterday live, I said, man, that was the cherry on top, man, because that's so true. The truth must come out if we're going to have a democracy. Jared, thank you so much, man, for making time. How can people find you on Twitter? I know a lot of people want to follow you.
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is Jared Beck, JaredBeck. I'm pretty active on there. I share my thoughts regularly, not just about the lawsuit, but about all sorts of political developments going on. We also have a Twitter handle, DNC Fraud Lawsuit, which provides updates about the lawsuit and coverage of the lawsuit. So as soon as we get new documents filed in the case, we put those up there on Twitter. So if you follow us there, you'll be the first to know when something new gets filed or when there's a new development.
Look at that, man. Jared is so transparent. I love it, man. Look at the transparency that Jared has in him and his team, him and Elizabeth. That's why, the DNC needs that type of transparency. They need to take notes and be transparent like Jared Beck. Jared, once again, man, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and bringing us up to date. Now, everyone has the same information. And guys, I wholeheartedly support Jared's idea that we need to support independent media. So not just this show, share this show. Heck yeah, hell yeah, share this show. But anywhere Jared goes talking about this issue, I want you to share it with the same enthusiasm. I don't care who it is, because we need more voices, not less voices, and we need the word out, not just here on my show, but go back and share him with Jordan. Go back and share him with Ed Higgins. Share him wherever he goes. Where are you going next, Jared? Where's the next stop?
Gosh, I know I have a show coming up this Sunday or Saturday. I don't have the name of the show handy, okay, but
don't worry about it. Look, you should just DM me, Jared, and I'll help you spread the word. That's it.
Okay, I'll do that, Tim. And it's been a real pleasure being here with you tonight.
You got it, man. Give it up one more time, guys. Jared Beck and Elizabeth Beck, guys, fighting for our democracy. Appreciate it. All right, Jared is gone now. And let me see if I can get this right. Okay, guys. And there it is. All right, my friends. That was a great show. You guys are fantastic. I got to both of my questions for my Patreons. The scrolling, we had so many people. Look, man, we had a great amount of people here tonight. I looked, it was at least 500 people tuning in at one time, at one point. When I was able to look, I was so focused on our conversation with Jared. Follow him on Twitter. He tweets a lot. He's got a lot of entry points. Once again, it's at Jared Beck, at JaredBeck. And he's also at DNC Fraud Lawsuit. So find him there, and let's just get the word out, guys. This is a very important moment. This is a very important lawsuit. This is very important for our democracy. And this is bigger than Hillary Clinton. This is not just about Hillary. I'm so glad that Jared mentioned that, because this is about the process. This is about the systems. This is about the ability to have a fair election. I voted for Jill Stein in the general. Everyone knows that. But right now, the two parties dominate our system. And if one of those parties can just say, well, we want this person, we don't care what the people think. And why do you think all of these other candidates dropped out? Why do you think O'Malley dropped out? Right? Why do you think Webb dropped out? Right? Why do you think Lincoln dropped out? Chafee. Well, you know why he dropped. But I'm just saying, still, why did he drop out? Maybe they knew that this was happening. Maybe this is not a secret. Maybe this is just reality, and everyone in the Democratic Party knows it, that this is how they do. Well, it's now for us to change how they do. And if they don't change it, well, guess what?
It's going to be consequences and repercussions.
Consequences and repercussions, guys. Thank you so much once again. Thank you for all the people in Super Chat. Let me go to my Wolfpack room over here, man. Let me see who's over here, man. My man, Bon Kim. Once again, Bon Kim came through. Thank you, Bon Kim, man. Thank you so much for donating to the show, guys. Look, if you please support independent media. Support this show, not just because you like the fact I'm not wearing my hat tonight. It's because I was rushing. I wanted to be on time. But because you value what we give you. That's why you do it. Do it because you value Jared Beck having a platform, that you value Ed Higgins having a platform, that you value Abby Martin having a platform, and George Webb having a platform, and all the great Jimmy Dore being able to come over here and be a different, you just be Jimmy Dore, and like the ability for you to get content that you don't get on TV. And that's why it's important for us to hold our media accountable. And I want to get along with all independent media. But dude and ladies and dudes, if you are parroting the talking points from mainstream media, then you defeat the purpose of independent media. And you, audience members, and Tim Black's Wolfpack, guys, we cannot stand for that. Jordan Sheridan, we love you. Jimmy Dore, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on my show, Jordan. I thank you for coming on the show. But we need to do this ain't right, okay? This is not right. Nico House, I want to have you back on the show. Let's coordinate this. I want to hear, once again, let's refresh everybody to the whole thing, like how Nico was collecting this information, and then how he met with Beck, and how him and Beck, Jared and Elizabeth, and how, I want to hear the whole thing from Nico House one more time. And support this channel, go in the description box below and become a Patreon. Give $1 or $2 or whatever you can per month to keep this going. This is great. I love it. This is why I do this, because of moments like this. They don't come all the time. They don't happen all the time. But when they do, oh man, it's sweet. All right, guys, like I always say, don't you let nobody take your cornbread. Give it up for Tracy Lynn, Judy, Jody H, Wendy Knox in the house. Fred Lexo's in the house. Thank you, Fred, for being here. Citizen Dabs, Jonathan Melton, Campsy. That's right. What's up, G? Cool again. Chris Buck, Pro Bono. That's what I'm saying, guys. It's amazing. Iron Man Oz, my moderators, Iron Man Oz, Broken Carpenter, Momo Pineno, for all that you do. Judy Brown, Kevin, Sergeant Hayes, Sandra Lee, my friend Sandra Lee's in the house. Springfield Progressive, I love it. Short Sitter says, Tim, when are you going to run for office, man? Dude, I'd rather just be here. I'd rather, well, not here, in a studio, and be able to fly Jared out, be able to fly Elizabeth out, be able to bring people out, bring my people in from Standing Rock. You know, like, don't get me started, man. Don't get me started, man. You're going to make me, you know what I'm saying? You're going to make me choke up. That's what I want to do. And you know what? I'm going to do it because I'm not going to quit. All right? They're going to have to come get me because I'm not going to stop. Give it up for Snork, Y2K. Angel Tip, Stephanie Chateau, my friend, Metalhead. What's up, Metalhead? John Kennedy, Beth Lamb, James Hancock, Cynthia Johnson, Donna Myers, Craig Robb, Roseanne Motorada. Hey, hun. Hey, hun. Give it up for Hey, hun. Tell Melody and Justin I send them my love. And Sex Dragon. Goodness gracious. They're here talking about, what are these people? AC Your, Bruins for Cornbread, Tech Move, we made it, man. Irma Linda, love you, Irma Linda. Good to see you, Wendy Knox, Judy Meyer, Jonathan Melton, Carmelita Foutois, John Calvacara, M99. Look, I got the whole house in here. Special shout out to Kelly. Come on, Kelly Lane. Give it up for Kelly Lane, Von Kim, and all the people that make the show possible behind the scenes, trying to help where they can. I appreciate you guys so much. This is great. And an honorable mention to Zach Haller and H.A. Goodman for what they do and for their pieces that also I mentioned in this show tonight because, like I said, I support independent media. You should too. Peace.
Tim Black. Tim Black. Tim Black. Yes, I am. True. Funny. Tim Black. I am TimBlack.com. Tim Black.
Email me at tim@timblacktv.com if you have suggestions for guests or if you have information to add to the show or if you just need to contact me and say, hey, man, I love what you do. Peace.